I asked Zach Edey after the game, what was the energy like in the locker room? And he could only say one word: terrible. Santi Aldama has played in his share of Grizzlies playoff games. He said this one was the worst one, the most painful of his career. We got to talk about it. The Grizzlies led by 29 points. Ja Morant got hurt. They lost by 6. How did the Grizzlies let this game 3 slip away against OKC? Let's break it down. Coming up on Locked On Grizzlies.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies. As my co-host Joe Mullinex like to say, it's Friday, and it's Friday, so you know we got to get down on Friday. You joined today with Damichael Cole here. Joe is getting the day off. We all know, shout out to my co-host. Man. He's a little, as he likes to say, he's washed. So I'm going to do this one solo as we break down Game 3, everything that happened. As I said in the opening, look, strong start for the Grizzlies in this game. It was different and whatnot, but Ja Morant gets injured. Everything completely changes after that. The Grizzlies lose this game 114-108. Now trail 3-0 against Oklahoma City in the best of 7 series. And as we all know, we've heard it probably 100 times at this point. No team has ever in the history of the NBA come back from a 3-0 deficit. So the Grizzlies are pretty much in an improbable position right now. But we got to break down what happened because there was so much that happened in this game. But before we get to that, before we break this down, this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code Locked On NBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. So make sure you go take advantage of that. Remember that Locked On Grizzlies has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Grizzlies daily newsletter. It's your one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right into your inbox. Sign up for free now at lockedondaily.com. That's lockedondaily.com and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Grizzlies newsletter. So what happened in this game? The Grizzlies led by 29 in the first half. That was their biggest lead of the game. The Grizzlies led by 26 points at halftime. And they lost by 6. They led by 27 when Ja Morant left the game. So big leads all throughout the second quarter, first quarter, and they played terrific basketball. Let's start there. How did the Grizzlies get off to such a strong start? It goes back to one thing. The number one thing was that the Grizzlies did was they limited the turnovers. Ja Morant looked terrific early in this game. The Grizzlies were getting rebounds. They were pushing the ball. They were efficient from 3-point range, right? Scottie Pippen Jr. in the first half made 5 3-pointers. That was a season high for him. His previous season high was 4. He did that in the first 8 minutes of the first quarter. Scottie Pippen Jr. set his new season high. He made 6 total, but in the first half, 5 3-pointers made, surpassing his season high at any point this season, which was 4. Ja Morant was terrific, 15 points and 5 assists up until his injury, as we just talked about, with 3 minutes left in the second quarter. So you had a dynamic duo going, in the backcourt between those two guys. They were dominant, and the Grizzlies limited the turnovers. That was the thing that we kept talking about. They have to limit the turnovers against this Oklahoma City defense. In the first half, 3 Grizzlies turnovers. We talked about it 2 games ago in game 2. 14 turnovers that resulted in 25 Oklahoma City points. In game 1, 24 turnovers for the Grizzlies. In the first half against OKC in game 3, only 3 turnovers. As a result, the Grizzlies took care of the ball. They got efficient scoring opportunities. They were to slow OKC down, and they played dominant basketball. They were easily the best team in the first half. I believe the score was 77-51. At halftime, the Grizzlies were rolling. They were on a roll, and again, they were in a very good spot to take this game and take over. But how did the game flip? I know that's probably the $1 million question here for some of those who may not have watched the rest of the game, or those that did watch the game. You just were, in shock of what you saw. How did the game flip? Well, it's simple. The Ja Morant injury happened. The injury happened with about 3 minutes left in the second quarter, and that was the turning point. That was the complete turning point of the game. And after the game, Grizzlies interim coach Tomasi Salo pointed out something that, was pretty much quite obvious, but it was different. It's different to me always when you hear a coach or, a player on the team kind of say what you, as the viewer, and your eyes kind of, see, like they confirm it to you. And in this case, Tomasi Salo said after the game that the energy quite drastically changed when Ja Morant left the game, the energy and the execution. And I point that out because of the fact that what you're going to hear us talk about as we get through this show more and more is how the Grizzlies struggled without Ja Morant. But here's the kicker. In the first half, the Grizzlies were plus 11 when Ja Morant was on the bench. Get that. In the first half of this game against OKC, the Grizzlies were plus 11 with Ja Morant on the bench. In the second half, they were minus 32. Plus 11 without him in the first half. But the difference between the first half and the second half, for the most part, if you take out the last 3 minutes of the first half, that is, they knew that Ja Morant was going to be back. Whereas in the second half, there was no coming back. Ja Morant was ruled out pretty much right after halftime. So I'm pretty sure Grizzlies players knew when they went in at halftime. Desmond Bane said he saw him, had said some encouraging words to Ja Morant when he saw him. But they knew at that point he ain't coming back. We want to win this game. We got to do it. That's the only way. We're going to go into game 4, trailing 2-1. And hopefully give our star point guard a chance to come back in this series and make some type of impact if he is able to. But, again, the Ja Morant injury happened and the game completely flipped. How did the game flip? In other ways, going beyond just the injury happening. OKC said, you know what? They're down one less ball handler. We got to attack. And that's what Oklahoma City did. They have the defense. They have the capabilities to just hound you. And we've seen that over the course of this series. And in the Grizzlies case, sometimes they've had a guy like Ja Morant who can handle all the pressure that OKC throws at him. But again, we talk about who are your primary ball handlers when Ja Morant leaves the game. It's Scottie Pippen Jr., who's a point guard. But again, one of the things that's been kind of the quote-unquote knock on Scottie Pippen Jr. over the course of his career, going back to even college, is he is prone to turning the ball over at times. Desmond Bane, he's a 2 guard, but as we've seen over the course of the season, he can be prone to turnovers when pressured by the defense. And we'll talk more about Desmond Bane in the second segment. So those were the 2 guys that you were relying on. OKC ramped up the pressure. They ramped up the intensity. The Grizzlies, as Santi Aldama said, he felt like the Grizzlies played more to hold off OKC than playing like they did in the first half and just going for the win. And that's probably a fair statement because, again, in the first half, they were winning when Ja Morant wasn't on the floor. And it's like, hey, you didn't have to worry about the fact that he wasn't coming back in. But in the second half, you're probably just trying to hold on, right? It's like, oh, we just got to get out of here with a win. And OKC erased that lead. It almost felt like in the snap of a finger. They didn't even have to walk the Grizzlies down over the course of the game. It was down. They cut the 26-point deficit in half in the first 6-7 minutes of the third quarter. It was tied, I think, 90. It was 99-99, somewhere around 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And at that point, the Grizzlies went on a 6-0 run right after that. The Grizzlies went up 105-99, and then boom, OKC hit them right back. Scored, got a steal possession after that, got a layup on the other end, and that's when you knew it's going to be tough for Memphis to get out of here with a win. So But all things considered, the Grizzlies battled. I think you can't say it was for a lack of energy, so to speak. In the second half, the execution was not great, and quite frankly, they just weren't good enough. They're down a lot of players. They just were not good enough to get the job done. But should they have gotten the job done? I think so. I think so. And two players, Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane, are the reasons I think that the Grizzlies should have got the job done. We're going to talk about that next here coming up on Locked On. But before we get to that, today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out or maybe some online shopping or entertainment, it's easy to lose track of where your money's going. And that's where Monarch Money comes in for you. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you just stop. And then you just manage your money and start building wealth. Go take advantage of this opportunity because you get surprising insights. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much money I was spending on food deliveries. And now I budget smarter and I can save more. And you get easy collaborations. Managing your money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the extra stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. The code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Go take advantage of that right now at monarchmoney.com. Welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies, where we got to talk about the dynamic duo that was left to finish the job for the Grizzlies in this loss against OKC, and that's Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. And I'm going to focus on these two guys specifically because one of them makes a whole lot of money and pretty much is essentially on a max contract, and that's Desmond Bane. It's technically not a max, but very close. Jaren Jackson Jr., the other, is going to get paid a lot of money potentially this summer. Like, he's in line. If he signs it, the Grizzlies are going to give him a sizable contract extension. So you're talking about two guys who are going to be two of the highest paid players on this Grizzlies team for a while. And with that being said, with heightened responsibility comes heightened expectations. We can agree that the Grizzlies aren't quote-unquote equipped to beat OKC without Ja Morant. I will agree with that. I can break that down as to why, we'll talk about it more in the next segment, but if Ja Morant isn't available, it just isn't a good matchup for the Grizzlies. So when you factor that in, I can agree with that. But when you factor in the fact that they were spotted, 26-point halftime lead, and Ja Morant could basically say at that point, all right, guys, you got Jaren Jackson Jr., two-time All-Star, candidate for All-NBA this season, over 20 points a game, led us in scoring in total points. You got Jaren Jackson Jr., you got Desmond Bane, capable of scoring 20-plus any night, can rebound, can get you some assists. Those guys are good enough to finish the job. They should be, right? This is the core three. You go around the league, you show me core threes. Show me really, really core threes. Teams that are built around three players. Go around the league. You show me a core three that if they lose one member of that core three, a 26-point lead against OKC is likely to vanish just like that. Core threes now. I'm not talking about, a situation like Milwaukee with Dame and Giannis. That's different. It's two guys. It's like a dynamic duo. There's no core three in Denver, so don't even think about bringing up the Jokic, Jamal Murray, Porter. Nah, they don't know what they're going to do with Murray and Porter going forward. But I digress. Core threes. Now, with that being said, let's get into the performances of these two players because Jaren Jackson Jr. overall wasn't bad, so to speak. Like I said, he has really stepped up over the last couple games after, the game that he had in game one, the 4-point game. Overall, Jaren Jackson Jr. was 22 points, 7 of 16 from the field, 7 rebounds. Like, it was a solid performance for him overall. But when you dive deeper into it, Bane and Jackson should have led the Grizzlies to a win. You got a 26-point lead at halftime. You got an all-star in Jaren Jackson Jr. You got a really good shooting guard in Desmond Bane, and you got some solid pieces around those guys. It was enough to me, even against this OKC team that is absolutely loaded. But here's the downfall. The fourth quarter was the downfall for the Memphis Grizzlies. In the fourth quarter, the Grizzlies didn't score a lot of points. Just to be honest with you. The Grizzlies scored 13 points in the fourth quarter. In that same fourth quarter, OKC scored 27. Jaren Jackson Jr. led the Grizzlies with 4 points in that quarter. No Grizzlies player scored more than 4 points. The Grizzlies had 4 total baskets. 4. They shot 4 of 20 from the field. And you know what? I wasn't surprised. Was not surprised one bit. This is the problem with the Grizzlies. If you are every day on Locked On Grizzlies, you have heard me say this all season long. The Grizzlies don't have great closers. Ja Morant is that in the closing minutes. But if you look at the makeup of the roster, Desmond Bane, great player. He is not a closer right now. Jaren Jackson Jr., isolation scoring, elite. But when you factor in the whole totality of his game, when teams throw the double teams at him and things like that, not equipped to overcome, those issues. So the fourth quarter was actually a small sample size of the big glaring problem that the Grizzlies have. Like, if you can somehow say, we're going to try to take Ja Morant away in the fourth quarter, which some teams can't do. But this has been an issue for years. Like, if it's not Ja, how are the Grizzlies going to score in the fourth quarter? And Jaren has had his moments, but there is no consistency to winning this way. Bane in the fourth quarter, 0 of 4 from the field, 1 assist, 1 turnover. All 4 of Desmond Bane's shots were 3-pointers. You know what that told me? Against the high pressure, the intensity that OKC played with, he couldn't really get to his spots. A couple of those shots I remember, they were off screens. He let them go really quick. 3-point shots that Desmond Bane is very capable of making, but not really the shots that you want Desmond Bane getting to. They're not bread and butter shots, right? You didn't see him, driving to the basket, doing the little snatch back into the mid-range, anything like that, the little sidestep, the flybys. None of that, because OKC was locked in defensively, and they were going to make you work for it, and they were going to make you earn it. And that isolation part of Desmond Bane's game is just not his strength. You can go look at the numbers from second-year Bane when he became a starter, from his third year, from his fourth year, from his fifth season. He has never graded out as above league average as an isolation scorer. He is a great player. He's a great secondary playmaker, and he plays his role extremely well. But when you have to put the ball in his hands against a defense like Oklahoma City, good luck, because the numbers, these aren't fluke. These aren't fluke numbers. Jaren Jackson Jr., 2 of 6 in the fourth quarter, 0 assists, 2 turnovers. What did we just say about Jaren Jackson Jr.? He's the one guy. When Ja Morant went out, I said, Jaren's the guy that's going to be able to make some shots in the fourth quarter. He can do that. And he made a couple. 2 of 6 from the field, and he shot the most, clearly. So, yeah, he made a couple shots. But you know what the problem is? 0 assists, 2 turnovers. Boom. That's the difference. With Desmond Bane, you don't get as much of the creation as a scorer. You get a little more playmaking, but you don't get the creation as a scorer. With Jaren Jackson Jr., You get the creation as a scorer, you're not going to get much playmaking. And OKC at times, I mean, they threw a triple team at Jaren at times in that fourth quarter. And one time he managed to score through one. He ripped through and just shot over the top of it. So even when he made that shot, as impressive as it was, you knew that's not sustainable. They got three guys at Jaren, and he couldn't find the open Grizzly in that situation. That's a problem. Even when he made that shot. So that's why things fell apart for the Grizzlies. Their best players had to elevate their games, and they weren't able to. And these are weaknesses that aren't necessarily new. These are weaknesses where it's been a problem. And it's something that's going to continue to be a problem until, these areas of their games show improvement. And it's something that they're capable of fixing because they're two really talented players, and something we'll monitor, going forward on their games. And I want to point out one more thing too before we move along. I want to point out one more thing because I think I posted something on X about, this same point that the Grizzlies were supposed to win this game. They're supposed to win this game. And I said that they've had games without Ja Morant all season long. And they relied on their depth in those games. And some people fired back at me with an understandable response saying, well, that depth is gone now, Damichael. Jalen Wells is hurt. Brandon Clark is hurt. And my rebuttal back to that is a simple one. The problems that I just addressed with y'all here, with Desmond Bane's creation, with Jaren Jackson Jr.'s creation, Jalen Wells and Brandon Clark weren't going to help you in those areas. Maybe they would have helped you defensively against OKC, but the fourth quarter problems, the 13 points scored, those same issues were going to be had with those guys on the floor too, because they weren't going to help you as creators against this OKC defense. That's not a strength of either of their games. So that's what I mean when I say those were the guys that you had to rely on. You had to rely on Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane. And they weren't able to get the job done in this game. And look, this is something even, Desmond Bane said at the game. Said his form is unacceptable. So they're going to get to the drawing board. They got at least one more chance to keep this season going. We're going to talk about that one more chance coming up here on Locked On Grizzlies. Memphis Grizzlies are down 3-0 now. No team has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit. It's, one of those things that it's kind of been a long tale that's been told over time in sports. We hear it in football. We hear it not in football. We hear it in basketball. We hear it in baseball. We hear it in hockey. No teams come back from a 3-0 deficit, whatever the case may be. Well, the Grizzlies will have a chance to make history, but, it's unlikely and probably not going to happen. But they'll have a chance. And that chance will start on Saturday when they take on Oklahoma City at home, Game 4, afternoon start time. So it's going to be an early game, another TNT game. And all eyes are initially going to be on, at least in Memphis, the potential availability of Ja Morant. We don't know much at this moment going forward. Did not talk to Ja Morant after the game. I do know he left the game, with crutches. He was in some very visible pain. He had to be helped off the floor. Tomasi Salo didn't give us much after the game regarding his status. So the injury report will come out later this evening. And if you're on social media, follow me on X at Damichael C. If you're not on there, I'll have updates over at the Commercial Appeal around 5-6 o'clock tomorrow evening time. So go check out the Commercial Appeal, and the updates will be there as well. And we'll have an update on Ja Morant's status. But until then, we can kind of approach the game from both perspectives. And at this point, it's simple. Are the Grizzlies going to get swept? Or are they going to stay alive and go to Oklahoma City? To me, Ja Morant's return or potential return, however you want to word it, that is the only thing that could give Memphis a fighting chance. That's it. And there are a couple reasons. That I say this. Number one, mentally, before we even get into the X's and O's and all that, I was in that locker room after the game, and go check out my story on at commercialappeal.com if you want to read, more about it. But I know in the story I referred to the locker room as dejected. I mean, it was quiet. I mean, and I get it. It was a tough loss. It was your chance to keep things going. And now, I mean, again, these guys know the history about being down 3-0. Like they're not dumb to that. They're not, completely oblivious to that. So they know the history, and it's deflating to know that you were right there for making this a 2-1 series, being at home, feeling good about where you are. Now you're down 3-0 and basically on the brink of elimination. So mentally, it's going to be hard for this team to snap back that fast. Santi said it'll probably take him years to get over that game. Like, I mean, that's kind of where they are. And everyone that I talked to after the game or listened to talk after the game, you got the sense that this isn't going to be an easy game to get over. So there is that. But the one thing that could help them, quote unquote, get over that game is seeing Ja Morant back out there, seeing Ja Morant on the floor. And that would definitely help the Grizzlies have some type of fighting chance. But if Ja Morant isn't available, then the problems that we saw in the fourth quarter become magnified. And maybe they show up, they show up greatly in the fourth quarter again, because that's when OKC maybe ramps up its defensive pressure and really kind of bottles down. Or OKC goes for the kill shot, so to speak. Say, hey, let's go ahead and put these guys away, and let's bring this intensity early in the game. And if they do that, I just don't think the Grizzlies are equipped to handle it. They don't have a lot of ball handlers to go to off the bench. It just aren't that many guys left. Scottie Pippen Jr. was your backup point guard. Now he's starting because of Jalen Wells' injury. Desmond Bane, in some games when Ja Morant didn't play, Desmond Bane would, be your basically lead playmaker. Desmond Bane and Scottie Pippen Jr. are both in the starting lineup now. They don't have another guy to go to off the bench to kind of serve, in that role. So that is, without Ja Morant, that is a weakness for the Grizzlies. And we saw that weakness and kind of displayed against an OKC team that's one of the few teams that is, not one of the few teams, but they're the team that is the most equipped to take advantage of a team that's going to come out there and not have a lot of playmakers on the court. And this is not even just me saying this. Scottie Pippen Jr. talked after the game, and when he talked about the second half, he said we were down a playmaker. Now you're playing lineups mostly where there's one playmaker, there's two playmakers, and defenses know that. OKC knows that. OKC knows that they're not going to give the ball to that guy, or that guy to dribble. It's only going to be that guy or that guy initiating the offense. Gives them less to worry about, more to be aggressive towards. And we saw OKC ramp up its aggressiveness in the second half. And if you're talking about the Grizzlies not having Ja Morant for game 4, not looking good. Not looking good. We'll be back on here. If in that case, we'd be back on here Monday talking about off-season plans and things like that. So we'll see how everything works out. Obviously, it was a tough loss for the Grizzlies. Can't say that enough. It was a chance to get this series Saturday down 2-1. But injury to Ja Morant, blown lead, 29 points, 26 at halftime. Tough loss for the Grizzlies. And look, that's just the way that goes. But look, the Memphis Grizzlies are here, and they're playing playoff basketball, right? So look, even though things will be probably out of reach going forward, the future is going to be bright for the Grizzlies. But stay updated on all the potential offseason news, draft coverage, and expert analysis by subscribing to the Locked On Grizzlies newsletter. Plus, you could win big by subscribing between April 7th and April the 30th. Right now, it's April 25th. So you got until April 30th to subscribe for a chance to win one of these amazing prizes. You could win a $2,500 Best Buy gift card. You can win a $300 Gametime gift card, or you could win a $200 Fanatics gift card. Get exclusive insights into free agencies, draft coverage, and team updates delivered straight into your inbox. Join the Locked On podcast for trusted coverage each and every day. Subscribe in today by clicking the link in description. Make sure you go take advantage of that. But thank you guys for tuning in with me on today on Locked On Grizzlies. We'll be back with you very shortly here, potentially on Monday, to break down Saturday's game and preview whatever's to come after that. And me and Joe Monarch should both be back together. But until then, remember that Locked On Grizzlies is free and available wherever you get your podcast. I'm Damichael Cole, and we'll see you on Locked On Grizzlies.